produced here in Campbell, California. For any questions about it, please feel free to email me at saxena@theproductify.com. So before we begin, let me tell you a little bit about some of the pillars of product success and why the Productathon is structured the way it's structured. So assuming that you have, the technical domain expertise, you have some sort of background in an area that you want to be a product manager in, the number one thing that you need is to develop a product habit, which is to say, understand why we are building the product, why your team is building it. If you are trying to build something on your own, why you're doing it. What are the benefits to somebody from something that you are building. The second thing is about awareness. So this is awareness not about the segment or the competition, but about yourself. So in any kind of product role, you are working in a small team, you're working with engineers, designers, salespeople, business development, customer success, you name it. And the art of product management is about balancing what the skills, the frameworks, the knowledge about the competition, the specifications, the technical requirements in the right amount for your environment, for your team, so that you get the best outcome. So being aware of what your strengths are, skills are, how you are perceived, are you able to influence people, maybe by writing or in a team meeting or one-on-one, is really, really important. And the third thing is about persuasion. So it's a segue into what I was saying, first being aware, and once you are aware on how you persuade people to do something. And you have to really think about these things, unless it comes naturally to you, on what your strengths are and how you are persuading people. And once you have, once you're aware, you'll be much better at persuading folks. And the one thing that stands out, and the reason why something will be successful, is a personal passion for that product, for that team, for that goal or outcome. Without passion, it's really very hard for you to persuade somebody to do what you think should be done. And this is a mix of awareness, persuasion, passion, of technical skills, domain expertise that you have, that has to be balanced, like I said earlier. And therefore, it is not really possible to go to university or take a survey course in which you understand a lot of these frameworks and be able to apply these frameworks one at a time. If it was straightforward like that, where you started at one place and ended at the other place, there wouldn't be that much confusion about what to do as a product manager. It's really this blending that you need to do. Just like there isn't any university that gives you a master's or a doctorate in becoming a CEO, similarly there isn't a place where you can go and learn in a structured A to Z kind of manner. The way this really has to be learned is by doing, and the way the Productathon is therefore being conceived is to connect you with real challenges at real companies that we partner with, so that you are able to get the confidence of solving a real problem. And therefore, when you are in a situation where you are the product manager, you can be effective because you've done that before. Most things in real life are pretty complicated, and the only way that you can be effective is if you've done them before. So that's how the Productathon is set up. Before I dive into why, how the course is structured, a little bit about the fact that product management is exploding. We've heard this term, software is eating the world, by Mark Andreessen, who is a very famous VC at Andreessen Horowitz. And he wrote this memo about 10 odd years ago, where he talked about how software is going to invade every kind of industry, and you see the results today, from insurance to shipping to transportation. Software is everywhere. And with AWS and GCP, which can be accessed by anyone, anywhere, whether it's Poland or Malaysia or Brazil, building things in software has become easier than it has ever been before. And customers everywhere are hyper aware and demand locally relevant products. So you can't take something that is working in Sweden and blindly give it to folks in Australia. It just won't work. It has to be relevant to them. And the other thing that's happening is that this building has become easier and competition has gotten fierce. So if you just look at the marketing technology landscape from 2011, where there were 150 companies approximately, in a year it jumped to about 350, and then within another couple of years it jumped to about 1,000 people in just one segment of marketing technology alone. And then by 2015 it was 2,000, and by 2016, anybody want to guess? It was 3,500 companies in this landscape, and by 2018, even though the slide says SmartTech 5,000, it is actually 7,000 companies. So you can just imagine the amount of pinpoint accuracy you need to get your go-to-market, to get your product right, to stand out in any of these little segments which is crowded by super smart people with super smart technical ability, who figured out, who've got lots of money in many cases, and product management then becomes the real differentiator, together with obviously engineering and growth and such, but it becomes really important to have your product market fit right. Which is why product managers have become critical, and instead of talking about are we building the thing right, which is a lot of focus in engineering heavy companies, versus are we building the right thing. So if you saw in the last slide the amount of competition that there is, you really need to understand whether you're building the right thing, which takes me back to my first point, which was about the product habit, which is to understand why you're building what you are building. In terms of coursework, let me jump right into this. This is, like I said, a 6-week program. The first thing that is really important to understand is data, the tools that you use, and how you define success metrics. If you go back a couple of slides where we had so many different companies, intuition is no longer enough, and we really need to have the data and tools and understanding on how you set a baseline, whether you're making progress to your outcome. So the first week we talk about that to set you up for success in any kind of role. The second thing that we talk about, which is in week 2, is developing this product habit, which is, I've repeated it a couple of times already, is about really understanding in a crystal way why are we doing this, what are the questions that we want to answer, what are the jobs that customers and consumers are going to come here to use this product. And that's a really difficult problem and takes a lot more time than to crystallize something than most people think it is. You can have a hypothesis and you can start building, which is the easy part, but to really establish and make sure it resonates is a time-consuming activity, and I will stress that more as we go along. The third thing is, once you have that clarity about what needs to be built, you have to write the product specifications as the product managers, develop some skills in putting some mocks together. So we'll talk about tools, we'll talk about frameworks on how to do that. And again, there are so many tools out there. All tools are pretty similar, but once you start using them, they'll be, some will become your favorites. Then on the second half, we talk about how to build a product strategy and roadmap. This is again a very interesting topic. We'll talk about what the inputs are, how you lay something out, and why these are needed in the first place. Then we talk about pricing and packaging. If you are in any sort of app environment or B2C, this is you probably be doing more around pricing research with some other folks, but as a product manager, it's important for you to understand how that affects your product. And then packaging is another one that you might be more involved in as a product manager. How do you communicate what the price is to your target market? And finally, and not the least, is awareness and persuasion. So anything that you've built up in the second week, which is where you crystallize what you're trying to do, you need to again be aware of who you are, how you are, and how you're going to persuade customers, your own team, in buying into it. So this together, I'll repeat that again. The data, what you're building, and how you write the specifications, clearly articulate what is being built, and then what is this overall strategy going to look like, what is the roadmap for the next 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, how you're going to price and package it, and then finally you bookend it with the soft skills, which even though there is one section, they permeate through the entire course of building a product. In addition, if you have time, you can also look at some of the things that I'll talk about machine learning and AI in product management. Machine learning has become really, really important these days and permeating every part of software. So in some people say machine learning is eating software, which is kind of true. So I'll talk about how to think about ML in building products. The other thing that people have asked me about is identifying new opportunities. So in many roles where you already have a product manager, you've been hired into a product role, there probably is already somebody who's identified an opportunity, a hypothesis. But if you're starting from scratch, we can talk about that. And then finally, what's the difference between a B2B and B2C product management, and what skills might be required. So I'll talk some about that. In terms of expectations on, my expectations from anyone taking the course, it's at least 5 hours a week, which includes watching the videos, doing some research, the assignments, maybe you want to set up some time with me for any questions that you might have. So a minimum of 5 hours a week would be sufficient for you to get through 6 weeks. Rules: practice active listening. Everything that is being said is being curated and for you, so don't doze off in the middle. I know it's really hard when you are doing this online, but be mindful of that. And then finally, be respectful. If you're interacting with me or with anyone else that you might be taking this course, then just be respectful. That's it. Thank you very much, and I look forward to interacting with all of you. Bye.